the other day, and he was telling me about an office that had opened up next to his, a competitor. And the competitor had put this big sign up front that said, best agents, in front of his office. Well, he was a little bit distraught about that, but it got even worse when a few weeks later, another office, real estate office, opened up on the other side. And on top of this one, an even bigger sign came out that said lowest commissions. So this guy was not going to let them get the best of him. He thought about it and thought about it, and then finally he put up another sign, the biggest of all. He's sitting in the middle, and it says main entrance. So I know, coming from a position of healthy competition, all of us sometimes would like for us to have that main entrance sign over top of our offices. But today I'd like for us to kind of put aside some of those competitive attitudes that we have and come here today with an open mind and come from a position of contribution. As I said before, I don't know if you know this or not, but what we did to put together this group is we have agents here that are in the top 150 of the agents in Richmond, Virginia. So you're really here with a very distinguished group. I personally would love to be able to delve into the minds of everybody that's in here and pluck out your secrets to success, but that's probably not going to happen. So what I'd like for you to do, if you could today, as we go through the process, be willing to share some of those secrets with us, and all of you will be given the opportunity to do that. A little bit about how we got here. A few months ago, actually, a committee in my office got together, and we were wondering what could we really do to pull together some of the best minds in the real estate area so that we could all kind of learn from one another, thereby giving us all a better real estate community. So we thought about it, and what we decided is what we needed to do was see if we could pull together a group of the top agents in the area, get them all in one room, use hopefully a mega agent panel as the draw to get them here, and then use that opportunity after we got them together to get more information from everyone that attended. So that's really what we did in putting together this event. So we hope you're going to enjoy the entire program that we have for you today. We have a number of things planned. First of all, we have our mega agent panel here. Kind of looks like movie stars over here. It's a great looking panel that we've got up here. We are going to feed you too, so you're going to have lunch. And then after lunch, or actually during lunch, we're going to have some table masterminds. So we felt that we didn't want to just be able to learn from our distinguished panel members. We wanted to have the opportunity to take advantage of the other wisdom in the room. So let me take a moment before we get into the program and recognize and give a big thank you to our sponsors who are seated in the back there at the back table, I believe. And if you'd stand up when I mention your name, I'd really appreciate it. But they are responsible for us being able to put together today's event, and we thank you so much for that. So they are Ray and Jen McMurdy from Capital Home Inspection. We have Katie Richards from HMS Home Warranty. Jeff Baldwin and Stephanie Amons from Movement Mortgage. And then John Jones from Richmond Mold Remediation. Had an opportunity maybe to meet and speak with them before we were all seated. But if you didn't, after lunch, they will be out there at their respective tables, so please feel free to go out there and visit them. I know Katie has a beautiful basket out there, and she's going to do a drawing for that, so if you want to drop your card in the little basket that she's got out there, you'll have an opportunity to be in that drawing. I also wanted to give a thank you to our forum committee for all the hard work that they did in putting together this event. For those of you on the committee, I know that your business is real estate, and I really appreciate you taking away time from that business to make this forum come to fruition. Thank you very much. So, without further ado, let's get started with our mega agent panel discussion. The panel, by the way, is being videotaped, so we hope to be able to have an opportunity to give this to you at a later date. We are very fortunate to have Christy Belt-Grossman here with us today as our moderator. And Christy comes from a place that's far, far away. It's a place that's almost like another country. It's Northern Virginia. And Christy has been in real estate business for 19 years, and along with her brother Terry, leads one of Keller Williams Realty's top 100 real estate teams as the chief operating officer. The Belt team sells throughout Fairfax, Arlington, and Loudoun County, and has sold more homes in Vienna-Oakton area than any of Northern Virginia's 10,000 realtors. Her team is frequently listed in Wall Street Journal's top 250 real estate teams, and this year they will close around $63 million in volume. A self-proclaimed geek at heart, Christy has been interviewed on stage by Gary Keller at Keller Williams Mega Camp, featured at Mega Tech. She is a community blogger for WUSA 9 and is listed in Stefan Swanepoel's technology report as having one of the top 100 individual clout scores in real estate. If you don't know what that is, clout scores your online social influence. So the Belt team's mission statement is changing lives for the better. And Christy's joy comes from giving back to the real estate community that she is so passionate about. So welcome, Christy.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, great. I want to thank Kathy and I want to thank Lindsay and the Agent Leadership Council. I'm so excited to be with you guys. I've spent the last couple weeks talking to these panelists and they are phenomenal. So it really became clear very quickly in my conversations with them why they're so successful. They act differently than the average realtor. They talk differently than the average realtor. And most importantly, they think differently than the average realtor. They think big. So my goal this morning is to kind of give you a little peek into their world. We're just going to have some conversations with each one. It's not going to be your typical throw out one question and everybody answers the same question. I'm going to hone in a little bit with each person on something they're really good at or something they're passionate about that I thought would be really interesting for all of us. Let me tell you, I took a ton of notes on my phone calls and I wish I could do an hour with each one because these guys are amazing. So we're going to do, each person's going to speak, and if you have questions, please write them down because by the time we get down to Clayton at the end, you may forget that you had a question for Heather at the beginning, and we're going to come back and do questions and answers at the end. So first, I'd like to you all to meet the panelists. So if I could ask you to tell us your name, your company, where you sell mainly, in case people want to refer across town, how long you've been in the business, what your projected transactions are going to be this year, and what your goal is for next year, units and volume. So Clayton?
I will try to remember all of that. Clayton Getz, Keller Williams Realty. I sell all flipping over Central Virginia. Number of transactions this year, 205-ish, 55 million sales volume. Most of that comes from my amazing team, not from me. We have 9 people that work with us, 4 full-time buyer agents, full-time listing partner, and myself. Next year, we are still working on that, but probably going for about 75 million with 300 transactions, 300 unit size. Most importantly, and I think this is something we need to talk about more in our industry, is we're running at about 40, just below 40% profit, net profit margin right now. Was that it?
Great point. I love your profit point. Anne-Marie.
Good morning, I'm Anne-Marie Hensley. I'm with Remax Commonwealth. I do most of my business in Chesterfield County. We do a lot of work by referral, so we do go to the other side of town when we're called to. I've been in business about 12 and a half years, and for 2014 year to date, I looked this up yesterday, $29,868,000 roughly in 92 transactions. And for next year, we're going to try to do a little bit better, closer to 120, 125 transactions, $33 to $35 million in volume.
Fabulous.
I'm John Daler with Joyner Fine Properties. I've been in the business 25 years. I work out of our West End office. I do a lot of my business, probably 75% of it within a 5-mile radius of my office, but I will pretty much go everywhere. Not everywhere Clayton will go, but I'll go. I go pretty far. 2014, closed and pending. Right now, we're at 132 transactions, which will be about 55 million. That's down from last year. Next year, the upcoming year, 2015, our goal is 165 transactions at 65 million. I have a full-time closing coordinator. I have a full-time listing coordinator who doubles as my assistant. And I have one full-time buyer's agent who is very good, and then 2 part-time buyer's agents that will help fill in and pick up the slack.
What's your average price?
My average price, we were just talking about that out there, is right at $400,000. So.
Thank you.
I'm Janice Taylor, RE/MAX Commonwealth. My territory is everywhere as well, which the internet has made that a lot easier than it did when I got into real estate 35 years ago. So anyway, we do a lot of property in the West End, Short Pump area, Glen Allen, Hanover, but Chesterfield, doing a lot in Verona at this point too, so we pretty much go everywhere as well. I have a total of 6 people on my team. Our volume hovers around anywhere from 48 to 52 million. I commend you, Clayton, just because we've had trouble breaking over that 52 million. And I think we need to add more team members, which we're going to speak about a little bit. You reach a point just physically to not be able to carry that much more, we're finding. So our goal is definitely to expand, but sometimes expansion was not in our DNA. We really liked where we were staying, and we were profitable where we were staying. But we're at the point right now as I think about in the next 10 or 15 years passing the torch, to move this team along a little bit more, and we're, I think have the means to do it. So our average price point is $328,000, and again, anywhere from the low hundreds or under 100 to almost 2 million, in price range that we've sold. And
Thank you.
that's everything.
I'm Cece Armrun with Joyner Fine Properties, and I'm wondering why I'm sitting up here with this group. Okay. Yes, I've been in business forever, 42 years. I live and work in the fan, and I work with my husband, Bill Galage, who is back over there critiquing this. And it is, anyway, we're nowhere near close in numbers to these people. Work in the fan, but generally work the city, rarely get to the counties. And so our gross volume is 21.5 million, and that's 35 sales sites.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heather Valentine with Valentine Properties. We work in mostly the South Side, Midlothian, Chesterfield area, but we go wherever our referrals take us because that's how we run our business completely. So we end up all over the place. This year we'll do about 150 transactions. Our goal next year, we're expanding our team this year, and we're also expanding more as a brokerage. So our goal next year will probably be to do somewhere around 200.
Excellent. Perfect. Now you keep it because you get to go first. So for at least one panelist here, they've never been on a panel before. So I want to commend all of them for, she said she's nervous about public speaking and she wants to get over her fear. And what that told me was that's a secret to someone who's really successful. So it reminded me of a Nelson Mandela quote, which is, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So we're going to conquer fear today, and we're going to start with Heather Valentine. Heather, you and I chatted a few weeks ago, and I'd love for you to share with them a little bit of your background story. It was a really interesting story. Heather bought her first home when she was 19 years old. She got into the business when she was 21. She's been in the business already for 10 years. She owns her own brokerage, and she was named to NAR's 30 Under 30. And I'm thinking, if that's what she did in her first 10 years, I can't wait to see what she does in her next 10 years. So if you could just share a little bit of your story about what your path looked like and what you attribute your success to.
Okay, so first of all, it's not me by myself. Austin and I work together. Most of you guys know Austin. We are totally tag team, so we're completely together, so I just want to make sure that's very clear. But my story is I was a really bad teenager, like your world's worst nightmare. 11 days before my 17th birthday, my parents sent me to a reform school in Vermont. So, not even a lie. I came back from that. I went to school in New York and watched the events of 9/11 happen, so I didn't want to be in New York anymore. So I came back from that and I have an art background, and when we bought our first house in 19, I was intrigued by the process and thought there were some things we could improve on, and thought that I could bring my artistic background to help people figure out what to do to their houses. So when we were 21, we started off selling real estate and been going ever since. We opened our brokerage in 2008, same year we had first child, and same year we had the recession hit. So that was an interesting combination, but we made it through. What's the next thing I was going to say?
So one thing you told me when we were talking is that you've been in the business for 10 years and you've had a coach for 9 years. I found that really fascinating, and I wondered, how would you know when you're 22 years old to get a coach in real estate?
Okay, so when I was in reform school, one of the things we had, because obviously my parents were not there, was kind of like a mentor, and they would literally like go to the grocery store for you, they would guide you, they kind of acted as your parents. So the first year in real estate, my broker took us to a Buffini conference, and I heard them talking about the coaching program, and I was like, this is exactly what I need. I need someone that I can talk to that's going to have unbiased opinions, going to guide me in the right direction, and can encourage me and champion me throughout the way. So for the past 9 years, Austin and I have had a business coach. We talk to him every other week. We do the Buffini systems completely. That's all we do. We focus on that. We run our business completely by referral. We advertise back to our clients. We throw client appreciation parties for them, and we just really try to do what our coach tells us to do, because if we do that, we tend to do well. If we don't, we tend to not.
So I'll give you one example that I experienced personally myself. So I've spent a lot of time on the phone talking to everybody to prepare for this. And literally 2 days after Heather and I talked, I had a handwritten note, which, how many handwritten notes do you get? Thanking me for the conversation. When she's doing us a favor by being on the panel, she thanked me with a handwritten note. I took a mental note and said I need to do that more in my business. That was awesome. So tell me a little bit more about your referral business and some of the client events that you do.
Sure. So we typically do about 3 client events a year. We do everything from, we throw a pumpkin patch client appreciation party where we invite our clients and their children to the pumpkin patch. It's like $11 a person, includes the pumpkin, includes all day festivities. We cook a huge pot of chili, we do roasted hot dogs and marshmallows, and just encourage them and their children to come to the event. We try to focus 2 events on family oriented, because we find that we do well with move up families selling a small house, getting into a bigger house. And then we have 1 event usually a year that's adults only. We typically do it around Valentine's Day because it goes really well with our theme. So we usually do like a cocktail party. We've done it at the Bull and the Bear for the last couple of years. We hire a band. This year we're going to do it at the John Marshall Hotel on Valentine's Day, and kind of as a treat to our clients, say we're going to throw your Valentine's Day for you. And we encourage them, even if they don't have a special someone, to come anyways, and we try to make it really special for them. But we are always trying to promote our business by giving back to our clients, and we ask them for referrals. We do the give, ask, receive mentality. Is we give them, we ask them for referrals, and we tend to receive them.
Give, ask, receive. Love that. So you are married, you're a mom, you have 2 little girls, I believe, and you're going to sell how many homes this year?
We'll be right out around 150.
Okay, so you're going to sell 150. So if I'm sitting out there, I'm thinking you probably work 24/7. Tell me how you make this work.
So I definitely do not work 24/7. If you call my voicemail, it specifically says on there that if you read this message on Sunday, I'll call you back on Monday. The only reason I would call you back on Sunday is if you have an offer, then I will call you back on Sunday. Other than that, you won't hear from me till Monday. Sunday's my family day. I spend it with my girls and my husband. Also, I have a wife, and that sounds really bad, but I have a lady who comes to my house every day. She folds all of my laundry, she cleans it, she cleans up the house, she does all of the things that I don't want to do when I come home at night. I can get home at 8 o'clock at night and I just want to be with my children. So that was my first assistant that I hired, and probably if I had to let everyone go, I wouldn't let her go. Because she just relieves so much stress off me, our family, and allows us to have a lot of free time.
So that's leverage.
Definitely, definitely leverage. And then we are fortunate enough to have 3 full-time assistants / office staff. So the way I arrange their schedules is we have someone in the office 7 days a week. So I have one staff member who works Sunday through Thursday, another one who works Monday through Friday, and another one who works Tuesday through Saturday. So my clients are constantly covered, even if I am taking time off. They work 8:30 to 5:30, and again, just leverage. The one who works on Sundays, which is when I take off, is licensed. So if somebody really needed to go look at a house or something licensed needed to occur, she would be available, so that way we can be free.
And I imagine you set your expectations with your clients up front about communication.
Yes, and all my appointments, I make it very clear to my clients, my work hours, and that I don't work on Sundays. And they can always call my office, there will be somebody there, but they won't get me on Sundays. I've never had anybody tell me that that's why they chose not to do business with us or have a huge objection to it. But my honest opinion about that would be if they did, they were not the right client for me. And so I think it's important that you set the expectations up front. You don't tend to have problems. I've had people text me on Sundays before, and they'll say, I know it's Sunday, but I was just thinking about this. I'll hear from you tomorrow. So they're prepared for it. I do a really good job following up first thing Monday morning, so that way there's no miscommunication or letdown.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course,
That's great. See, it wasn't that bad.
I know, we're not that.
Now you know how it works. Cece,
Yes.
you have been in the business for 42 years. That is so awesome.
It's amazing.
So, it is amazing, because this is not an easy business. We all know that, right? It's a fantastically fun business, but it can be really challenging. So, I would love to know from you, what is it? How do you sustain a career of 42 years?
I'm driven, okay, for one thing. I love the interaction with the clients that you meet. I think we meet really exceptional, wonderful people in our career, and we would never have that exposure in other jobs. So, I really love doing that. It's also because I started out with people saying you couldn't do it. And they, not only could I not do it, they would say, go home and take care of your children. And so that was just such a motivation for me. They told me I couldn't do it, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it.
So you told me a great story. I loved your story. So I said to Cece, okay, if I'm sitting in the audience listening to you this morning, the world's changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
42 years. So maybe people aren't telling women you can't go and work anymore. But we all come up against roadblocks and somebody saying you're not going to be successful in whatever it is. So you told me a great story about what you did to get over that.
I don't know if you all remember Butch Austin, but Butch was one of my first brokers, and when I started with Butch's company at that time, he kept saying to me, Cece, where were you today? What's happening? If you've been in the office, we would have calls for you. We'd help you out. Where are you? What's happening and everything. And so I said, Butch, I'm out here working. I'm not in the office. I'm working. So finally, I said to him, I would go to Willow Lawn and walk around and cry, because he would be so mean to me. So finally I said, Butch, I tell you what, this was the 1st of July. I said, I'll bet you, Butch, that I'll do more than you. At the end of this month, I'll bet you I'll beat you, and we'll do it for a case of beer. So anyway, I worked morning, noon, and night, y'all. I did it. Nothing was happening. I'm in the 3rd week, and there's Butch, and I'm like, oh, God. Get to the 4th week, and then everything falls into place, y'all. I rode in, and I had 4 sales, and at the time, some of the sales were really high compared to the average sales at that time, And so what it did for me, well, one thing I learned later was that Butch Austin was a marshmallow. That was the whole facade with him, this ugly guy, and you're going to do it kind of thing. He was a neat guy. But anyway, what it showed me was that I could do it, And so once he showed me that, and maybe that was his method and his madness, but once he showed me that, he gave me the confidence that I could do it on my own. And I just decided I was going to do it.
And now she's been doing it for 42 years. And what I loved about that story was she challenged herself. She challenged herself not just to do it, but to compete with someone else, set a goal, and had accountability with that other person. That's something that we all do, I think, probably as top producers. So I thought that was just fabulous.
It was fun. And then we've just been blessed through the years as the prices have gone up. We could do less deals. Made life easier.
I'm going to come back to you, I think, at the end. Thank you, Cece. Like I said, y'all, please be patient with me. I could spend an hour with each one of these fabulous rock stars up here. So, Janice, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're number one in the board. Yes, which is amazing right there. 30 plus years in the business. Have done a phenomenal number of units. And you have a fairly small team, small family team, like mine is a family team as well. How many people in here have family teams, either a spouse, a child, okay, handful, okay. Not only that, you also have a member of your team who's not family, who's been on your team for 15 years, which is pretty impressive. And so I'd love to know a little bit more about the team dynamic. You know, what does that look like? What are the roles on your team? How is your office set up? Maybe just kind of the ABCs of a team in 5 minutes or less.
Okay. Forgive me, I made notes because I do digress, but I wanted to get a few important points over to you all about a team. First of all, in my 35 years of real estate, I spent half of my career as a single, individual agent with no team. And you really need to just find your niche. Being a team is not the most important thing if, you don't care to, if you do just want to be a one-man show and do what you need to do. I commend Cece for the volume she does, because the profit margin can be just as high as an individual as it is carrying a large team, trust me. So sometimes it does make life easier and to have the team. And about 17 years ago, Michelle came into my life, who's like my daughter, as you mentioned, and she pretty much came in and ran the show. And I had to give up some control. So Michelle's a licensed agent. She acts as our office manager, and she's a buyer's agent as well. Then 2 years after that, my future son-in-law, David Ogle, was on a career path for dental school, and I veered him off of that and said, just come in and work in sales for a little bit, which he had been in before. And he loved it. It was in his blood. And about when the real estate market collapsed, I was a little concerned my daughter didn't marry a dentist, but he's done very, very well, and I think has a great life. So David works as a buyer's agent, but because of his referral business for the past 15 years, he's doing very well on the listing side as well. After that, we found the need to grow just physically to get more listings because David was bringing in buyers, I was handing in buyers, I needed more listings. So at that point, we hired a listing manager, and she became sort of my right arm, probably under the umbrella of Michelle, because I needed somebody to go-to person and not train the listing manager. So we've had several. We haven't been able to keep one, only because of moving, not because they wanted to leave, I hope. But our listing manager has been invaluable to us. And that's something that has allowed me to go out and get more listings. She handles a lot of the feedback, a lot of the phone calls, a lot of the marketing and social media, that sort of thing. Then about 10 years ago, we added staging to our business, which has become a pretty integral part. Any of you know any of my listings, and a lot of you do the same thing. But we decided to do it ourselves. I hired stagers for about 5 years. I was spending a lot of money on it because I do offer that as a free service. Sometimes I need to probably think twice about that, but then we decided to do the staging on our own. And my daughter who was a stay-at-home mom at the time, the kids were getting a little bit older, 7 and 9-year-old grandchildren, and she became our staging leader, if you will. I do it with her, as well as my husband, last on our team. He's not here, so I can say that. He thought he was retiring, and he joined our team as our client care manager. He handles everything from putting lock boxes on, signs up, not physically the signs, but lead-ins, all of that sort of thing. But the most important role that he's done for us, which is really invaluable, is he attends our home inspections, he negotiates meeting with the contractors, he doesn't negotiate the inspection, but negotiates getting all the pricing together, he does all the walkthroughs. And for those of you that have been in the business a long time, you know this is a huge time-consuming, problem, to deal with at a closing time. So, and because of that, he goes to every home inspection, he's met a lot of the inspectors. So it's pretty much the dynamics of how our team works. Our team really involves a level of synergy and energy that is most important to us. We feel like we can train anybody. It's really getting along with the team, it's being in the office, getting to know everyone. We hire on a, really, how'd you feel about that person? Sometimes it's just not their ability because we feel like we can mold them. Although it is nice not to hire the same person that you've become. I don't want the type A person doing all of my social media and, phone calls and all of that. So, but we've been very fortunate to be able to, have our team, for a long time, all the same people on the team.
Janice, let me interject here. I'm just curious. How many of you are solo agents with no assistant? Are there any? Okay. And how many are an agent just plus an assistant? And how many are an agent, an assistant, and maybe more than that? Okay.
Good cross, very good cross, yeah. So for those of you that do have the team or aspire to get a larger team than what you have, it's been a very good thing for us. And as Clayton had said, I think we're at the point now where we probably will, consider as a team, make a decision, to either hire, a couple more team members to move, our team along. We like it where we are. We're in a very good nesting space we've been with for a long time, as far as our volume and our comfort level. And our home and our family life. And it's a good cross, and at this point, I think though sometimes you just got to get out of that really assigned parking place and, move it forward a little bit.
So Janice, if I'm sitting out here and I'm one of the agents who doesn't have an assistant, or maybe I have an assistant but I haven't taken that next step, what's your advice? So maybe I either want to take my business to another level, or maybe, gosh darn, I just want to have a life. What is the step?
Great question, because that's when I did hire my first assistant, when I just, a little bit of both. Mostly it was just get a little bit more quality of life, because it was hard to do everything at one time.
So what's your advice for those people? What's the first thing they should do?
Get an assistant. Get an assistant.
So now they know they want an assistant. What's your advice? I want to hire, what's the first thing I want to do? What do I need to think about?
I'm sorry, I was missing the question a little bit. As far as going out to get an assistant, is that what you mean? Basically what I did was as a part of RE/MAX, we attend a lot of events, as all of the other franchise companies do. I really went out and just questioned every large team that I knew, or I didn't even know, in Virginia. And I would have to see them at meetings. I'd go through the roster. I'd call them and say, what were some of the steps that you did in attaining your first assistant? What questions did you ask? How much money do you spend? That was a big question. When you don't know, what the typical assistant makes, or how their, how their schedule is as far as income, whether they're on bonuses or salary, or and we kind of work through that. So
basically, actually, what you're telling us is great advice for anything you're doing in your business, which is to go out, find the people doing it at the highest level, find out what they're doing that works and what doesn't work, and then model that.
No question. That's exactly what I did. I mean, I sat there at a RE/MAX convention one time and just aligned myself with, all of these top agents. They had no idea who I was. And I became friends with them as well. And you'll find any agent is very approachable, and especially the top agents. First of all, it's a little bit of an ego boost, I guess. For those, there's always going to be somebody better than you are, and always somebody better than I am. And I aspire to talk to these people and just, sometimes, if you just ask key questions, they'll sit down and give you the nitty gritty. They'll give you the down and dirty of everything. And that gave me the confidence to move forward, and also to know that I could keep it relevant, and I could also keep it, validate hiring someone. I think that was one of the first problems I had, am I going to be able to give somebody work to do, to pay this salary? What if they don't, what if I'm not busy? That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. With each person that I've hired, that's been the hardest thing that I've had to do, is sit back and say, am I going to be able to validate this? Or what if something happens that my income goes down and I can't afford them? I promise you, it does work. If you have the people come on board, you will find ways to go out and make more business. And you want more money, you sell another house. And sometimes it's not all about the money, and we find that out. It's all about the service. And your clients will know that. The minute you're in it for the money, the minute you're in it to make that commission, I've done it, and I wanted to kick myself for it, and I've never forgotten it. And the clients know. They know if you're in it, I just want this commission, you just want the commission, and you're making all the wrong choices. But it all comes together, if you are looking to, grow your team.
So now if you're thinking about growing your team, you know who to call for advice.
I'm happy to give it. I'm happy to
Awesome.
give it.
Thank you so much, Janice.
Can I just say one thing about these 3 agents real quick? I was on a trip with Heather at the Eagle trip recently. She said she sends notes when I got back to the office. I had a note in my mailbox, handwritten from Heather. So a little unknown fact about Cece is she does door knocking in the fan. So she owns the fan. If you're thinking about getting a listing, you might want to just refer to her. And Janice does have a great team because we do a lot of business together out in the far west end, and I can call anybody on her team at any time, and they all know what's going on, which is really a nice feature of their team. So,
Awesome. Thank you, John. That's great. So, John, when we talked, and I asked you, what's the secret to your success? John said something that was so simple, and sometimes it's the simple things, and I want you to talk about that. You said, go to work every day. What did you mean by that?
Well, and that's what I do. So this time of year, actually, we're spending a lot of time on our business plan, but, throw a little Keller Williams thing in here is Gary Keller's got a great book. And I read a lot of books, but one I read that Shift, I think is the name of the book, and it's one I read in 2008 in the market tank. His thing was you can't control the market. The only thing you can control is what you do. So a lot of my business is based on plan. I was a CPA before I got into real estate 25 years ago, so I kind of have a little business background. So I basically wanted to lay out, how I was going to do the business. And my first year in the business, I worked with some people that gave me some good insights into developing a business plan. And every October, first week in October, we start our business plans and pulling those together for 2015. And the reason we start in October is because we know everything we're doing in October, November, and December is going to determine whether we're successful in 2015. So we take a lot of time, at this point in the year to really capitalize on that and really focus on kind of running through the finish line, because all those sales now are going to be pendings for the next year. So again, that's obviously a big component in it.
So not only are you planning your year ahead, actually when we talked, I asked you, do you have a routine? Are your days, some of our days get pretty crazy with showing properties, showing buyers and inspections if you don't have a team. So I said, tell me what your day looks like, and your day is pretty much your day, the same day. Tell me about that.
So again, back 20 plus years ago, I did a business plan, and I do a lot with Mike Ferry, which I'm sure a lot of you know, and there's different trainers out there. It's a guy I've kind of been with for 20 plus years, and he said, if you don't know what your perfect day looks like, it's guaranteed you will never have a perfect day. So I've gone, back then I lined out my perfect day from sun up to sundown and on a weekly basis. So I have a pretty detailed schedule, which I try to follow.
So tell us what your perfect day is now, and 25 years into the business.
All right,
your perfect day is...
Yeah, so waking up. Getting up is a good thing. At this age, if I can, that's a good point. But my goal is to be, and keep in mind, you got to know what your perfect day is to have it. You're not always going to have your perfect day. Because Jamie asked me this morning, she said, where were you in the gym? And I wasn't there. So, but my goal is to be in there every morning at 6 o'clock. I try to come on, my kids are all off at school or out of the house, and so I spend a little time with my wife, and my goal is to be in the office by 8:30. Now, I will tell you, when I was younger, I was in the office every day at 7 o'clock, and I was pushed back. We were in the gym at 5 o'clock, so, we made a full day. Dean knows, the schedules we all used to keep. But so then, first thing in the morning, my main function is to be prospecting, and a lot of my prospecting revolves around past customers and my sphere of influence. I don't do a lot of the expired, I do expireds and FSBOs, but more the ones I know. Dr. Larry Mills is a great guy on the FSBOs and expireds. He does them very well. I do that as a small component, but most of my business, or most of my prospecting in the morning, starting at 8:30, are past customers, their sphere of influence, and then my lead follow-up ends in the morning with the intent of setting one qualified listing appointment every day. And hopefully more if we can do that. So then afternoons, obviously we do lunch, but at the end of the morning, I'll get on the email, return emails that my assistant hasn't already addressed. Things, and most of them turn out to be
That's
personal.
key, sorry,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to step in.
Yeah.
He just said, and at the end of the morning, I return my emails. How many of us get lost in email land?
Yeah, I mean, that is,
That's awesome. So you're doing the
I've
most
done-
important things first in the day.
and I've done that so many times. I've been in the office and just check the email. Oh, wow, my fantasy football league has got something on, or whatever it might be. And so, I'm like, I just got to, I work really hard to keep my blinders on with that. I have a little note that goes, Velcro sign that goes on my door that says, prospecting in progress, do not disturb. And now everybody knows, don't knock on that door. So, I can be in there, and just be focused on what I'm doing and updating.
So
my
you're
cards.
purposeful and intentional about what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and so, and that's the most important part of the day. Now, I tell people, if I can get that qualified listing appointment, and I've gotten that, then, and I don't have anything specific that afternoon, I've done what I need to do for the day, because that is the most important part of the day.
So I want to segue off one thing that you mentioned that you do. You talked about prospecting, that you're mostly calling your sphere and your past clients. So what do you do when you have those transactions? We all like to think we give great customer service, and we all do give great customer service, but there's always the difficult client. Do you call them too?
Absolutely, and I was telling Christy, back years ago, this kind of, kind of go way back to '92, I was at a Black Ferry retreat, a young lady named Karen Bernardi, I don't know if you know that name, at one time she's the #1 RE/MAX agent in the world. I talked to her, she was giving a seminar and following up on past customers, and I told her, I said, I got this one past customer, and she said, go back and call him, and I was telling Christy, I actually have his house listed right now, and he's got an ex-wife now, but between the two of them, since '91, when I sold my house in Retriever Ridge, which I did not think was a good thing, it just turned out to be bad. I was just afraid to call him. She told me to go back and call him. I called him. He's like a long-lost friend. He's so glad to hear from me. What were we doing? And over the years, through referrals, actual houses they've sold, I've probably gotten 15 sales from that.
That's
One
awesome.
phone call. So that kind of crystallized it. for me.
Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. That's a perfect example of that. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, John. I can hardly see that.
I know.
Anne-Marie, when we chatted, the thing that struck me when I was talking with Anne-Marie is no matter, and trust me, we talked about a lot more than what we're talking about up here. We went through a list of about 15 questions. No matter what I asked her, she knew her numbers. What are your top 3 sources of business? And she reeled them off. Sphere of influence, past clients, and her website. I asked her about income. She told me that, and she didn't have to look it up. It's like right here. She made $13,000 her first year, not counting expenses. So she probably was in the hole, I'm guessing.
Exactly, somebody was.
She made $90,000 gross in her second year. And within 10 years, she's jumped up somewhere in the $700,000 to $900,000 in gross commission income range in 10 years. So my question was to her, what was it that helped you break through that ceiling? And you had to break through multiple ceilings.
Right, well, it's a process, right? It's growth, and we all work every day to better ourselves. And I think the game changer for me was learning more about business planning, a little bit about what you just talked about. I started at Coldwell Banker at an office that doesn't even exist anymore, 12 and a half years ago. And they were great in teaching me how to sell a house and how to write a contract and how to do addendums, but nobody showed me how to run a business. And funny enough, I have a business degree, focus in marketing, and still, practical business is different than what you learn in school. So I just feel like it was really difficult to make that transition from going out there and selling property every day and running it like a business. And it's absolutely night and day when you can make that switch, and that was the game changer for me. So yes.
So tell us, what does that mean for you in terms of, obviously you're selling real estate. What are some of the things that you're doing where you're the business owner? Tell me how you're running your business, things that they might want to do.
We start with planning, just like you, very early, well, early, not early in the year, but earlier than maybe someone would expect. I think by October, November, we've got our plan pretty much solid and what we're planning to do for January. And what I love about business planning, and I can get so excited about it when I talk about it, but as a single agent, I remember starting this, and I would look at my own personal expenses and say, what am I spending every day? What do I need to run my household? And if I'm going to do this, and I'm going to invest all of this time and effort into selling real estate, because we all know how time-consuming it can be, I also want there to be some sort of reward for doing it. So we call that the big rocks. Well, maybe for you, that's taking your family to Disney. You know, for me, I want to remodel my master bathroom this year. So, you know, whatever that is, but add that in to your plan. You know, I need this to run my household, but I also want to have some sort of reward, and I add that in. And I look at what are going to be the charitable contributions that I make during the course of a year. Trying to think what else is in there. I mean, it's certainly...
So you're putting, I don't know, it's a Keller thing maybe, or maybe everybody talks about it. We talk about your big why. Why do you do what you do? Why are you here? You know, so what you're saying is you're tying your big why into your business
into your plan. If we're going to work
What
hard, we
motivates
want to, exactly. And I have learned how to balance, I think, you know, work hard, play hard. And there are a lot of things I like to do in my personal life. And I think that if we're going to be out here, we're going to work hard, we want to be able to have the means to do those other personal things that can recharge us.
So one thing I also thought was interesting, she has amazing Excel spreadsheets, which I was like really envious of, being the geek that I am. But she analyzes all of her outgoing money in terms of what she's spending on her website, what she's spending on advertising, etc. And I hear a lot of people say to me, oh, well, as long as I get one deal out of it, you know, it's worth it. How do you look at your investments? Because I think you told me a different number than just one deal.
Well, and isn't it great? I mean, I know a lot of times people just want to get their money back. You know, you make an investment and you just want to make sure you don't lose that money you put in. But I try to say we at least want to have 3 times our investment, your return on investment. And I can't take credit, by the way, for any spreadsheet that I have. We have like a 7-page spreadsheet that will tell you anything you ever wanted to know about my business, but my dad does it. And he keeps us straight and organized, and for those of you who know me on a regular basis, I have nothing to do with that. But what's so great is we don't want to spend the time doing that, right? I mean, we have other things to do. We need to be working with buyers and sellers, and it's great that I can pick up that spreadsheet and I can know exactly what our numbers are.
So how often do you pick up that spreadsheet?
Well, really only once a month, where I want to look and see what the updates are and where are we, you know, to plan, but it really is one document. So, yeah, at least 3 times your return on your investment, but we calculate that on every single source that we have. And I know that there's no reason that I want to go and put money into something just to know I'm going to get it back, when I can make $13 for every $1 I put in to marketing to my sphere of influence.
So you're talking about opportunity cost. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just be mindful of that. I think it's really important to have a good handle on what you're spending, what you're getting back, and what your plan is.
I thought that was great. So you're in business, you're not just a salesperson.
I try to be, and I wanted to say too that it starts with the personal, right? You need to have all that outlined to kind of figure out what you want to do and where you need to be. But then that carries over to the business side. So, okay, if my household budget and with everything I want to do is $50,000 for the year, I've got to translate that into sales. How many sales is that going to take for me to earn that money? And then from there, I know, okay, if I've got to sell 20 houses this year, from what sources are those going to come? And then I can look and say, well, based on our history, we keep these spreadsheets every year. So based on our history, last year I did 40 transactions just from my, just say, past clients. So I know that this year with a larger base, hopefully I can do, 45 or 50. But for each source, we can allocate how much money we need to spend for each and every source. So
I love that. You're very purposeful.
we try to be.
That's why you're successful. And you just segued perfectly into Clayton. So thank you very much. You were just talking about having a personal budget and knowing where you are with your personal budget. Clayton, we're getting close to Q&A, just letting you know. So Clayton has an interesting story, and maybe some of you know this, but I didn't know this. But in 2009, Clayton was over $600,000 in debt. And last month, he was able to make the last mortgage payment on his house. 5 years. So I asked him about that. How in the heck do you go from $600,000 in debt to now I own my house free and clear in 5 years? And basically what he told me was a story about personal development. So if I'm in the audience, Clayton, and I want to kind of launch myself on the next path, what does that look like? Tell us about yourself.
My purpose of being here, you're going to hear me say purpose a couple of times, is to really give as much value as I possibly can to all of you that have taken the time out of your day to be here. So I want to share a personal story with you, if you don't mind, and my hope again is that you will be able to take something from that and apply it to your lives, your businesses, your relationships. So, I'm going to go quick because I really do have to pee. So this story actually starts with my mom, my hero. My mom was kidnapped when she was 7 years old. Her older brother, her younger sister, middle of the night, her father came in and ripped them out of their beds and said, we're leaving, right? He fled the country. They were born in Quebec, so fled Quebec, crossed the border into New York, and found a boarding home and dropped them off, left them. So no more mom, no more dad. So they spent the next 5, 6, 7 years of their young lives. He came back and he picked them up, and then he would find random women, random girlfriends, and he would drop them off again and abandon them, right? So that was my mother's life. So needless to say, she didn't have a very strong foundation to be able to, she wasn't thinking big like many of us are. She was trying to survive, okay? So what she did to survive, she worked 6 days a week, but by American standards, we were poor, okay? I now know that, at 39, that we were wealthy compared to what most folks go through around this world. But we were poor. We were so poor, in fact, and there's a point to this, that we had a pretty nasty roach issue, to the point where, I'll never forget this, we all have these defining moments in our lives where something happens to us and it's just something snaps. So I'm sitting in class, it must have been 8th grade at Byrd Middle School, and out of my peripheral vision, I see this, I look down and there's a roach crawling on my sweater in class. Struggled with confidence, always try. It's kind of hard to be cool when you come to school with bugs on you, right? So really struggled for a long time, just trying to fit in. We were poor. I went to Freeman. It was kind of a richer environment. So that was kind of my childhood. And then fast forward years later, I ended up graduating from I don't know how, but graduating from VCU. Ended up selling pharmaceuticals legally for about 4.5 years. Bought my first home. It was not a great experience, and was ready to make a change. So I got into real estate, and everything began to change at that point because I started going to events like this and surrounding myself, as you said, Janice, with people that just think bigger, right? So I'm back up for just 1 second. I'm moving as fast as I can here. So a couple other things. The year I got into real estate was also the year that I married the absolute love of my life, my best friend, my wife, Stephanie. Changed businesses and also found out I had cancer. All of that happened in 2005. So it was another one of those things, and we all get kicked in the face. Who's not been kicked in the face in this room? We all have challenges that we go through, but it's how we respond to those challenges that makes us who we are, and also how we can impact the lives of other people that we associate with, right? That's what it's all about. So from there, I ended up going to these masterminds and realized no one ever told me that, Clayton, you can accomplish anything that you set your mind. No one ever said those words to me until I started spending time with people like this and realized that they're normal. Well, mostly, right? These are normal people, and they're accomplishing amazing things. And listen, it's not about the money. Agreed? The money comes. When you do the right thing day in and day out, the money comes. I love what Jim Rohn says about everybody becoming a millionaire. Everybody should want to become a millionaire, not because of the money, but because of what? It's the journey, it's who you become on the path of becoming wealthy. So I'm going to give you some quotes. Please write these down because they have changed my life. If you will change, everything will change for you. Who said that? Jim Rohn. If you have not, get yourself some Jim Rohn. If you have not, the sports guy. For those of you that aren't familiar. If you want more, you must become more. Success is not something we pursue. We attract success by the person we become. I didn't understand that in high school. You want more success? We have to become more attractive. That's not physically. We have to grow. We have to learn. We have to mature. Right? That's what it's about. We have to give. All right, so lastly, in closing, why? Why? The pearls that have come out of this for me is and I know you all didn't share this, but I know you have big whys. And I know most of the people in this room have big whys. I've redefined the why as purpose. Okay? When you align your purpose with what God, with what whoever you believe your creator has designed you to be, what can stand in your way when you truly define that purpose? Nothing. So define your purpose. So why? The purpose, that's the first question. The second question is, why not you? Whatever it is that you want to accomplish, why not you? And the third and most important question that I'd like to leave you with today is, why not right now? Why not today? Why not before you leave this room? Whatever limiting belief that you had, why not? Not when you leave the room, not tomorrow, right now. Change it. And be more. Life is short. Life is short, guys. Give back. Be more.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to give you guys a chance to ask any question you want. If you want to share an aha, that's okay too. We've got great panelists up here. So if you would just raise your hand and stand up with your question, and then I'll repeat the question and we'll pass the mic down to whoever. You can either ask a specific person or just throw it out to the panel.
When you all started your businesses and started hiring people to work for you, did you all do the training of staff, or did you have someone train them? Very curious.
So when you started hiring people and bringing people into your business, did you train them yourself or did you have other people train them?
Well, since the microphone's here, I'll just give a quick answer. And the thing that I always remembered hearing was, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. But I made sure that, because this is back in '91 when I hired my first assistant. I had to have a certain level of production before I did that. But at the same token, it's kind of a balancing act, because that assistant's going to let you get to a larger level of production. So your first assistant, you may want to bring somebody in part-time basis just to take care of some of the administrative stuff to work up and get the business again. A little blip up in your business to allow you to go to the next one. But yeah, I trained every assistant 100%. Then we got to the point further down the road where we had a training manual, but you know, it's critical that the assistants are you, and they, you know, you need to tell them how to be you, so.
Anybody else want to answer?
Mine might not be as professional an answer because ours is baptism by fire. You're thrown into the office and you're expected to know names and addresses first off. We need sellers, buyers' names, we need addresses. That's the first thing anybody needs to know because that's our vernacular. That's what we talk about. I need this file, I need that file, so-and-so's on the phone. You know, it really is kind of modeling for anybody who comes on our team. Our last listing coordinator, she was with a large team before she came to us in Vermont, and she had a very focused listing job that she had. So she was very into profile, you know, about manuals and numbers and training and all of that. So before she left, we took advantage of it and we said, put together a training manual for your next person. So between Michelle, David, and myself, anybody who comes in after us does get a manual, but most of the time it's really just osmosis. It's the
How many
synergy
of
in
you,
the
so there are
office.
6 of you on the panel, I think you all have at least one other person on your team. How many of you train your own people? And how many? Raise your hand. Everybody. So there's your answer. Anybody else have a question?
Would any of you be willing to share a big mistake that you made in your business? It doesn't have to be related to your team or growing your team, but anything that, and how you learned from it.
A big mistake and how you learned from it so that they won't make the same mistake.
I'll go back just real quickly. Probably the biggest mistake, and I alluded to it earlier, was working for the dollars, working to get that commission rather than keeping the service that you're providing in mind. And, you know, I often tell my team members, don't ever forget, you know, we can make as much money as doctors, lawyers, you know, we have the best business in the entire world. However, we're not going into botching a surgery, we're not putting someone in jail. We can make a lot more money than they do, but we have to provide the service. And we just can't lose sight of that. And that's probably working it just for the dollars sometimes. And you get caught up in it. You need a payment, you need to pay your assistants, you need something. And you just go, oh my gosh, if this doesn't close, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But exactly what Clayton said, you know, the money will come. You know, the money will come. You just have to lose sight of it. Michelle knows I'm not the numbers person. You know, she has to sometimes tell me, you know, David's more involved with it, you know, in his numbers probably than I am. And I'm embarrassed to say that because I do want to be better at it. But, you know, I do look forward and I know what we need to do. But sometimes I don't want to look back because I get too satisfied with that. And I just want to just concentrate on the service aspect and, you know, referrals and all. So.
Heather, did you have something you wanted to add?
Not really. I would say, I mean, the biggest mistake we probably made in the beginning of our business was not having the right advisors as far as like our financial planner, our accountant. So we didn't know, so we just thought they were doing the right thing for us. We found that out down the road, but I don't think they're necessarily mistakes. They're more learning opportunities for us. We've definitely learned about, you know, retirements and how accounting should work. So when they say something that doesn't sound right, it's triggers. So I think nothing's real big mistakes. They're just more learning blocks, I guess.
Learning curves.
Yeah.
We call them stepping stones.
Yeah.
Step up to the next level. Kathy, how many more questions can we take? I'm not sure where we are on time.
I think we've got another 5 minutes.
Okay.
One more thing, just to piggyback on what Heather said. Now things have changed so much. Everything is definitely more in the business, you know, and the brokers are more into running your, you know, helping you run your business. But, you know, probably, you know, and I'm sure it still happens, is exactly what Heather said, just being sure that when you're on commission, it's so easy to think about the big picture. Oh, I've got this great big check. And, you know, I'll pay taxes at the end of the year. You know, I'm not don't have to save up for the taxes each month or, you know, whatever. Now, of course, you know, things have come a long way, but it's definitely allocating the money the right way for sure, so.
So we have, I think, probably two more questions. Make them really good. Okay.
So what would you say, I'd like to hear from each of them, that you do exceptionally well?
What do you do exceptionally well? One thing.
I have the mic, so I'll start with it. I think communication is probably the thing that we do best with our clients, among each other. Everybody in my office knows what's going on at all times, and that's probably the key to our success, is we do cross-train a lot. We do work together. If exactly what you had said earlier, if somebody calls into my office everyone knows what's going on at all times with every listing, every buyer, and we're not compartmentalized, but that's just the way that we work, and that's probably the best thing I've ever done to propel our business, because I feel like our clients have a level of confidence when they call our office, and I've often been told that by them. You know, I can call anybody and everybody knows what's going on, and that's what's helped us a lot.
Cece, you want to take the next one?
My husband, Bill Galage, is the biggest help. The biggest help for me.
How long have
now.
you been married?
Oh, golly. 24 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, but a huge help in the beginning. I mean, he picks up where I leave off, and has been super in doing that.
Great. Heather? One thing you do exceptionally well.
I think the thing we do exceptionally well is we create a culture not amongst just our office, but also our entire database. We incorporate our clients in and try to be part of their lives and have them be part of our lives as well. They become our friends. If my clients have a baby, I make sure I bring them a baby gift. I really try to incorporate them into our business, let them know that they're not just a transaction to us, really treat them like people and friends. And if they aren't somebody who aligns with our culture, contrary to what John said, we delete them, because I think they're making somebody that they might work better for. So we try to create a culture amongst our database and our office.
I want to just affirm the panelists. I know there was a lot of discussion today about numbers and profit and commission, but in my conversations with them, every single one to the core, their client is everything. So I want to commend you guys on that, because you're really a great example to our industry. John, you want to?
I want to add one thing too, is I think listening to your customer and asking them questions constantly just keeps you on the edge. It's just developed such a nice relationship with you and your customer that just continues on through the years.
Ask questions and listen instead of talking.
Okay, Larry was asking that question. I think he wants me to say Instagram and Twitter. I don't know what they are, but if I had to say one thing, well, there's two things. Knowing my scripts and my dialogues, knowing what to say to people, and then most importantly with my customers, and this gets back to your customer service, is setting the proper expectations for everybody you work with, because you know, if they worked with, you know, I use the example of they landed the hot air balloon on the house the last time they sold a house, they're going to think that's what you're going to do. But we go take great time to tell them specifically what we do to list the house and what's going to happen, what they can expect around every corner. When it goes under contract, same thing with our buyers. So we have all of our listing and buyer presentations in the office to make sure we don't have anything untouched on that.
Thank you. Anne Marie?
I would say the best thing, or what we do best, is client service. And I think that is probably one of the most important things too. And that means something different to every client. Not everybody needs the exact same thing, but we try, and I think I can say not only myself, but everybody that I work with feels the same way. And I also think anybody that you hire is a reflection of you, and I think that's very important to recognize too in talking about hiring as we were earlier. But everyone that works on my team feels the same way about taking care of clients, and we try to go to the extra mile, because oftentimes that, you know, just we want to do it, but we don't always. And I think that for everyone on my team, we do everything we can to make sure at the end of an experience that we've not only gotten the job done, but that person's happy with what we've provided and that they're willing to refer us. So service is certainly a big one.
And Clayton?
One thing, just being a big thinker, just hanging around with others that think big and copying. Okay, that's the one thing that we do, I think, very well. I'm not afraid to copy something that someone else is doing in another market, in my own market, and duplicate it. It's how we landed Glenn Beck, it's how we landed Barbara Corcoran. If it's working in another market, I will copy it word for word and use it in my market, as long as it's legal.
And I think we're about out of time, so I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists.
Wow, I was inspired by that. What do you guys think? I thought that was dynamic panel discussion, really great. And I know I can hardly wait to get back to my office and really share a lot of the ideas that came out of this today. And again, I want to thank the panelists. And Christy, thank you so much for doing such a superb job in all the probing questions and getting the really thought-provoking dialogue going that we had. I think it was really a great job. Now, the club's getting ready to serve food. We really are going to have lunch for you today. What we're going to do is get started. We're going to go ahead and get started with lunch. And then in about 15 minutes or so, I'm going to provide each table with a question. And I would like for each table to select a person, and your objective is to take this question, it's a real estate business question for your table, and take that question, discuss it, and come up with bullet point answers to that question. So I want each table to identify someone that will be both the scribe and the spokesperson for your table, because before we wrap up today, I'm going to go through and give each table the opportunity to take about 2 minutes to tell us what your question was, and then to give us the bullet points from your table. We will also be sure to share these with you guys later on. So I think that's all. We're going to break for lunch now, so you enjoy your lunch, and we'll get back and get the masterminds going in about 15 minutes.